Asterisk. Asterisk. He gave her money for the bus, not knowing she was a CEO millionaire and fell madly in love with him. Asterisk. Asterisk. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into today's story. It was a cold, windy evening, and the bus stop at the edge of the city was nearly empty. The streets were slick from the recent rain, and the sky was a shade of gray that seemed to mirror the mood of the people passing by. Among the few waiting for their rides was a young woman, her clothes ill-suited for the weather. She was standing near the bench, hands tucked into the pockets of her worn-out jacket, shivering slightly. Her name was Emily, and despite her rough appearance, she had a kind face. She was a woman with a lot of dreams, but not a lot of money to make them come true. She had just finished a long, tiring shift at a local diner, and all she could think about was getting home to rest. As she waited for the bus, she fidgeted with the crumpled dollar bills in her purse, unsure if she even had enough for the ride. That was when she noticed him. He stood a few feet away, also waiting for the bus, but there was something different about him. He looked out of place in the worn-down area, dressed in a tattered jacket, his hair unkempt, and eyes scanning the street as if lost in thought. His name was David, and although he looked down on his luck, he was actually a millionaire CEO. But that evening, he wasn't dressed as one. He had chosen to walk the streets, trying to experience the life of someone who had to worry about every penny. He was on a mission to see how people would treat him if they didn't know who he really was. As the cold wind picked up, Emily looked over at him again. She saw him glance at the bus schedule, his eyes looking troubled, and then he did something that caught her off guard. Without a word, he reached into his pocket and pulled out the last $10 he had. He walked up to her, his steps tentative. "Excuse me," he said, his voice gentle yet strained. "I don't have enough for the bus. Would you be willing to help me out?" Emily looked at him, a bit taken aback. She could tell he was in need, and without hesitation, she took the last bit of money she had and handed it to him. "Here," she said softly. "Take it. I'll figure something out." David took the money, looking into her eyes with a mixture of gratitude and surprise. He hadn't expected someone to help him, especially not a stranger. As he thanked her, the bus finally arrived, and they both got on. But their paths would soon cross again in ways neither of them could have predicted. That simple act of kindness on a cold evening would set in motion a chain of events that would change both their lives forever. But neither David nor Emily knew just how much their lives would intertwine, nor did they know that love would blossom from this unlikely encounter. It was only the beginning of a story that would test both their hearts in ways they never imagined. Asterisk. Asterisk. He gave her money for the bus, not knowing she was a CEO millionaire and fell madly in love with him. Asterisk. Asterisk. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's continue with the story. After that cold evening at the bus stop, Emily couldn't stop thinking about David. She had helped him out of kindness, but there was something about him that lingered in her thoughts. She wasn't sure why, but his quiet gratitude and the way he had looked at her with such sincerity made her feel as if their brief encounter had meant something more. She couldn't explain it. Life, however, had a funny way of moving forward, and Emily had other things to focus on, like her struggling life in the city. She had an interview lined up the next day, the kind of opportunity she desperately needed to make ends meet. As she got dressed for her interview, she couldn't help but notice the faded clothes she had on, a stark contrast to the polished business attire she was sure her potential employer would be wearing. She did her best to straighten her hair and put on a smile, hiding the nerves that had built up inside her. The interview went exactly as she expected. She answered questions, tried her best to present herself as confident, but deep down, she knew it wasn't enough. She was just another young woman struggling to make her way in a world that seemed stacked against her. By the end of the day, the email arrived. "Thank you for your time. We've decided to move forward with another candidate. Another rejection. Another failure." It felt like the weight of the world was on her shoulders as she trudged home, walking the same streets she always did, looking for that tiny spark of hope that might change everything. That evening, Emily sat alone in her small, dimly lit apartment. She stared at the chipped coffee cup in front of her only companion in the silence. It wasn't much, but it was hers. She thought back to the man at the bus stop, David. Could he have been someone important? Was it a coincidence that he had been there at that exact moment? She shook her head, trying to push the thought away, but there was something about the way he had acted, the way he had seemed so out of place, that nagged at her. Little did she know, David was thinking about her too. After he left the bus stop, he couldn't shake the feeling of her kindness. He had lived a life surrounded by wealth and luxury. But something about Emily's gesture struck him deeply. He had been pretending to be someone he wasn't, testing the waters of how people would treat him if they didn't know who he really was. But Emily's selfless act had made him realize something. Maybe he had been wrong all along. Perhaps he had been looking for the wrong things in life. He couldn't get the image of her face out of his mind. He didn't know why, but he felt compelled to find her. A few days later, David decided to take matters into his own hands. He hired a private investigator to track down the woman who had given him money at the bus stop. It didn't take long for the investigator to find out where she worked. Emily was the waitress at a small diner in the heart of the city. David, determined to learn more about her, decided to visit the diner. He wanted to see her again, to know if the kindness she had shown was just a fluke, or if there was more to her than met the eye. He walked into the diner one afternoon, the bell above the door jingling as he entered. He scanned the room and found her almost immediately. Emily, standing behind the counter, her apron tied around her waist, taking an order from a customer. As he approached the counter, his heart raced. She didn't see him at first, but when their eyes met, she froze. The recognition was instant. There he was, the man from the bus stop, but this time he was wearing a well-tailored suit, his appearance sharply different from when they first met. Emily's heart skipped a beat. Was he the same person? Was this some kind of joke? She opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came out. David smiled softly, his tone warm. "Hi, Emily, it's me, David, from the bus stop." ***. He gave her money for the bus, not knowing she was a CEO millionaire and fell madly in love with him. ***. Hello, everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's continue with the story. Emily stood frozen, her mind racing as she stared at David, the man from the bus stop, now standing in front of her, impeccably dressed in a suit. She had never expected to see him again, let alone under these circumstances. She blinked a few times, trying to process what was happening. "David?" she asked, her voice tinged with uncertainty. David smiled warmly, trying to ease the tension. "Yes, it's me." "From the bus stop," he repeated, his voice soft but sincere. Emily didn't know whether to be relieved or confused. The man who had seemed so out of place, so down to earth, was now standing in front of her looking every bit the CEO he was. She couldn't help but feel a little self-conscious, suddenly aware of her worn-out apron and the diner surroundings. "I didn't expect to see you here," Emily said, forcing a smile. "I didn't expect to be here either," David replied, his eyes twinkling with a hint of amusement. "I've been meaning to thank you for what you did for me the other day. It meant a lot to me." Emily felt her cheeks flush, not sure how to respond. "It was nothing," she said quickly. I didn't want you to be stuck." David raised an eyebrow. "Nothing? You gave me your last $10. I think that's a lot more than nothing." Emily shrugged, unsure of what to say next. She had always been quick to help others, but something about this situation felt different. David's presence was making her feel uneasy, yet there was something about him that drew her in. "David," noticing her discomfort, decided to change the subject. Listen, I don't mean to make things awkward. I just wanted to say thank you properly. And I also wanted to apologize. I didn't tell you the truth when we met. Emily frowned. What do you mean? David hesitated for a moment, as if unsure how to proceed. I'm not exactly who I said I was. I'm actually David Carter, CEO of Carter Enterprises. I've been, well, pretending to be someone I'm not for a while. Emily's eyes widened in shock. Wait, you're a CEO? She asked, struggling to comprehend what he was saying. David nodded, looking a little embarrassed. Yes, I know it sounds strange, but I've been trying to see how people treat me when they don't know who I really am. I guess I wanted to know if people would be kind to me if they didn't see the title or the money, and you were kind to me, even though you had no idea who I was. Emily was speechless for a moment. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. The man who seemed so humble, so genuine, was actually a millionaire CEO. She had given him money without even knowing his true identity, and now he was standing in front of her, admitting that he had been testing her kindness. I don't know what to say, Emily finally said, still processing the revelation. You didn't have to do that. I helped you because it felt right, not because of who you were or weren't. David smiled, a mixture of admiration and gratitude in his eyes. That's exactly what I admire about you, Emily. You didn't treat me any differently. And that's something rare. Emily felt a wave of warmth at his words. It was hard to believe that someone with so much power and wealth could admire her for something so simple as showing kindness. Well, I don't know what to say, Emily said again, a nervous laugh escaping her lips. I guess I'm just trying to get by, like everyone else. David's expression softened. You deserve more than just getting by, Emily. I can see that you've got a big heart. And I want to offer you something. Emily raised an eyebrow. Offer me something? She asked, unsure of where this was going. David nodded. I know you're struggling, and I know this might sound strange, but I'd like to offer you a job. I think you'd be a great fit for the Carter Foundation. We could use someone with your compassion and work ethic. Emily was stunned. A job offer from a CEO? She couldn't even wrap her head around it. Wait, you want me to work for you? She asked, still in disbelief. David nodded. Yes, I'm serious. I think you could bring something special to the foundation. And if you're willing, I'd love to help you get your life back on track. Asterisk, asterisk. He gave her money for the bus, not knowing. She was a CEO, millionaire, and fell madly in love with him. Asterisk, asterisk. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's continue the story. Emily was stunned. A job offer? From David? The man who had been a complete stranger just days ago, who had tested her kindness without revealing his true identity. She didn't know what to think. On one hand, she knew she needed a job, and this offer seemed too good to be true. But on the other hand, she was unsure. Was it the right thing to accept help from someone she barely knew, especially after discovering that he was a millionaire CEO? I don't know, David, Emily finally said, her voice quiet but thoughtful. This is all a bit overwhelming. David's expression softened, understanding her hesitation. I get it. I know this is a lot to process, and I don't want you to feel pressured. I just see something in you, Emily. You have the kind of heart that's rare in people, especially in the corporate world. And I think the Carter Foundation could really use someone like you. Emily shifted uncomfortably behind the diner counter, looking down at the floor. She had always worked hard, but the idea of working for a foundation, let alone one connected to such a powerful figure, was intimidating. She had worked in restaurants for so long, never dreaming that she could be part of something bigger. I don't know what to say, she said again, nervously tugging at the hem of her apron. I've never really done anything like that before. I don't have experience in charity work or anything like that. David smiled, his eyes warm. You don't need experience. What matters is your passion and your willingness to make a difference. I can teach you everything else. Plus, it's not like you'll be doing this alone. You'll have the support of our team, Emily felt a knot form in her stomach. She was flattered by the offer, but something inside her was telling her to be careful. Was this just a way for him to feel good about himself, offering a job to someone who had shown him kindness? She wasn't sure. "I just need some time to think about it," Emily said, finally looking up at him. "I appreciate your offer, I really do, but I need to be sure it's the right decision for me." David nodded, his smile never wavering. "Of course. Take all the time you need. There's no rush." As he turned to leave the diner, he paused and looked back at her. "Emily, I just want you to know that you've already made a difference in my life. You helped me see something I'd been missing for a long time, and I think you could do the same for others." With that, he walked out of the diner, leaving Emily standing there, lost in thought. She couldn't shake the feeling that this offer was a turning point in her life, but she also felt a deep sense of doubt, unsure if she was really ready to take that step into a world so different from her own. The next few days were a whirlwind. Emily tried to focus on her work, but her mind kept drifting back to David's offer. She replayed their conversation over and over in her head, wondering if it was too good to be true. Her friends at the diner noticed her distraction. "What's going on with you?" Ruth, one of her regular customers, asked one afternoon as Emily refilled her coffee cup. "You seem different lately." Emily smiled faintly, still unsure how to process everything. "I guess I've been thinking a lot about my future." Ruth raised an eyebrow. "That's not like you. Usually you're all about getting by, making ends meet." Emily hesitated. "Well, something happened. I met someone, and he offered me a job, a really good one." Ruth's eyes widened. "A job? What kind of job?" "It's with a foundation," Emily explained. "A big one. I don't know. It just feels like everything's moving so fast." Ruth leaned forward, her voice serious. "Emily, you deserve more than just getting by. You've got so much potential. Don't let fear hold you back." Emily looked down at her hands, her mind racing. Could she really take this leap? Could she leave behind everything she knew and step into a world where she felt like an outsider? As the days passed, Emily's uncertainty only grew. But there was one thing she knew for sure. She couldn't ignore the chance to change her life. Whether or not she was ready for it, this opportunity had come to her for a reason, and she would have to make a decision soon. Little did she know, this decision would be the first step toward a future she had never imagined. Asterisk, asterisk. He gave her money for the bus, not knowing. She was a CEO, millionaire, and fell madly in love with him. Asterisk, asterisk. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's continue the story. Emily spent the next few days in deep thought, constantly torn between the life she had known and the new, unfamiliar world David was offering. Each time she walked into the diner, her mind would wander back to the moment he had stood in front of her, offering her a chance to change her life. The idea of working for the Carter Foundation seemed like a dream, but she wasn't sure if she was ready to leave behind everything she knew. The diner had been her safe haven, the place where she knew the routine and the faces. She had always dreamed of something more, but the fear of stepping into the unknown held her back. Meanwhile, David didn't push her. He respected her decision to take time and think it over. He sent her a few texts checking in, offering support, but he didn't pressure her. Emily appreciated that. She could tell he genuinely cared, not just because she had helped him, but because he saw something in her. But as the days passed, the weight of her decision grew heavier. One night, after a particularly long shift at the diner, Emily was walking home when she ran into Ruth again, the regular customer who had always been a friend to her. Ruth was sitting outside, smoking a cigarette, the usual calm in her eyes. "You're still thinking about it, aren't you?" Ruth asked, taking a drag and blowing out a cloud of smoke. Emily sat down next to her, feeling the weight of the world pressing down on her shoulders. "I don't know, Ruth. It just feels like it's too much, you know. Too much to give up, too much to risk." Ruth smiled softly, putting out her cigarette and turning toward her. "Emily, listen to me. You've got something special. Don't let fear stop you. Sometimes, it's the biggest risks that lead to the greatest rewards. You don't have to stay in that diner forever. You can make something more of yourself, but you have to take the leap. Emily sighed deeply, her eyes on the ground. I don't know if I can. What if I fail? What if I mess it up? Ruth chuckled, her voice warm and comforting. Failure is part of the journey, sweetie. But staying stuck in the same place out of fear, that's the real failure. You have a chance to change your life. Don't let it pass you by. Emily looked at Ruth, feeling a sudden sense of clarity. She knew that staying where she was, stuck in her comfort zone, wasn't going to bring her the future she wanted. The time for change had come. Okay, Emily said, her voice more certain than she felt. I'll do it. I'll take the job. Ruth smiled, giving her a supportive pat on the shoulder. I'm proud of you. You won't regret it. The next morning, Emily called David. She could hear the surprise in his voice when he picked up, but he quickly masked it with excitement. Emily, are you sure? You're ready? He asked, his voice warm with encouragement. Yes, she said, her voice steady. I'm ready. David smiled on the other end. I'm so glad to hear that. We'll get everything set up for you. Welcome to the team, Emily. As the days passed, Emily began to prepare for the transition. David sent over all the details, the paperwork, and everything she would need to know. She was nervous, but a part of her was excited too. The chance to be part of something meaningful, to make a difference, was a dream come true. She left the diner for the last time, handing over her apron to Ruth and saying her goodbyes. Ruth hugged her tightly. You've got this, she said, her voice full of pride. Emily nodded, feeling a mix of excitement and fear as she stepped into the unknown. She was about to embark on a new chapter, one that would not only change her life, but possibly lead her to a future she had never even imagined. Little did she know, this was just the beginning of a journey that would bring her closer to David and open her eyes to a world of possibilities she had only dreamed about. Asterisk, asterisk. He gave her money for the bus, not knowing she was a CEO millionaire, and fell madly in love with him. Asterisk, asterisk. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's continue with the story. Emily stepped into the Carter Foundation's office with a mix of excitement and nervousness bubbling inside her. This was the beginning of a new chapter in her life, one that she never could have imagined just a few weeks ago. As she walked into the sleek, modern building, she couldn't help but feel a little out of place. The walls were lined with photographs of charity events, international conferences, and business deals, all showcasing the foundation's high-profile work. She felt small in comparison, just a former waitress now being given a chance to be part of something much bigger. As she made her way to the reception desk, a woman behind the counter greeted her with a warm smile. You must be Emily, she said. David's been expecting you. He's in the conference room. Emily nodded, trying to steady her nerves as she followed the receptionist's directions. She passed by several other employees, all busy at their desks, immersed in work. When she reached the conference room, she took a deep breath before knocking on the door. Come in, David's voice called from inside. Emily opened the door, and there he was, sitting at the head of the table, dressed in his usual polished suit. He looked up and smiled when he saw her. Emily, welcome, he said, standing to greet her. He motioned for her to sit. I'm glad you're here. We've got a lot to talk about. As Emily sat down, she felt her heart race a little. This was the moment when everything changed. David wasn't just any CEO. He was the CEO of a powerful foundation that helped people all over the world. And now, here she was, about to start her first day working for him. David's warm smile put her at ease, and he began to explain her role at the foundation. We're going to start small, he said, pulling out a folder and sliding it across the table to her. You'll be working closely with our community outreach programs. There's a lot of potential for growth here, and I think you'll be a great fit for this team. Emily looked at the folder in front of her, filled with detailed reports and plans for upcoming charity events. She felt a wave of excitement. This was what she had always wanted, a chance to make a real impact. I'm really looking forward to this, Emily said, her voice a little more confident now. David nodded. I know you're going to do great things here, Emily. But remember, it's not just about the work. It's about helping people, making a difference in their lives. The rest of the meeting went smoothly, with David outlining her responsibilities and the expectations he had for her. He was kind, supportive, and genuinely interested in her success. Emily felt a sense of purpose she had never known before. As the meeting concluded, David stood and extended his hand. I'm glad you're on board, Emily. I have a feeling this is the beginning of something special. Emily shook his hand, a smile tugging at the corners of her lips. Thank you, David. I won't let you down. As she left the conference room and walked back through the halls of the foundation, Emily couldn't help but feel a sense of awe. She had come so far from the woman standing at the bus stop just a few weeks ago. But as much as she was grateful for the opportunity, she couldn't shake the feeling that something more was growing between her and David. Every time he smiled at her, every time they spoke, there was an unspoken connection that seemed to grow stronger. She didn't know what it meant, or where it would lead, but she knew one thing for sure: her life had already changed forever, and she was ready to embrace whatever came next. Asterisk, asterisk. He gave her money for the bus, not knowing. She was a CEO millionaire and fell madly in love with him. Asterisk, asterisk. Hello, everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's continue the story. Weeks had passed since Emily started at the Carter Foundation, and with each passing day, she found herself settling into a new rhythm. The work was challenging but fulfilling. She had quickly become a key part of the team, her ideas and contributions earning the respect of her colleagues. As much as Emily was thriving in her new role, there was still an undeniable tension building between her and David. It was subtle at first, a shared glance here and there, a fleeting moment where their hands brushed as they passed papers back and forth. But over time, the connection between them grew stronger. They had spent countless hours working together, discussing projects and brainstorming ideas. David had always been kind, patient, and encouraging. He took time to mentor her, showing her the ropes and offering guidance whenever she needed it. Emily had never had someone believe in her the way David did. She had always been on her own, scraping by. But now, she was part of something bigger. And there was something else. There was an undeniable attraction between them, one that neither of them had acknowledged, at least, not aloud. One evening, after a particularly long day of meetings and planning sessions, David asked Emily to join him for dinner. I know this amazing little Italian restaurant nearby, he said, his voice casual but inviting. How about we grab a bite? It's been a long day, and I think we both could use a break. Emily hesitated for a moment, wondering if this was a business dinner or something more. But then, she realized that she was tired of overthinking everything. Sure, I'd love that, she said with a smile, her heart racing a little. The two of them walked to the restaurant, the city lights flickering around them, the evening air cool but not cold. When they arrived, they were shown to a quiet corner booth, the soft hum of conversation in the background. As they sat down, Emily noticed how relaxed David seemed, no longer the CEO with a million things on his plate, but just a man, enjoying a simple evening with someone he respected. They ordered their food and settled into easy conversation. They talked about everything: work, their favorite books, the places they wanted to visit, and their dreams for the future. It felt so natural, like they had known each other for years. And for Emily, it felt like the walls she had carefully built around herself were slowly coming down. She had always been cautious, always wary of getting too close to anyone. But with David, it felt different. The more they talked, the more she realized how much she enjoyed his company. The evening passed by quickly, and before they knew it, they were finishing their dessert. David leaned back in his chair, his gaze soft and thoughtful. I'm glad you came, he said quietly. I know things have been moving quickly for you, and I wanted to take a moment to let you know how much I appreciate everything you've done. You've really brought something special to the foundation, Emily blushed at his words, feeling the weight of his compliment. "Thank you, David," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's been incredible, really. I never thought I would be here, doing something like this." David smiled, his expression tender. "You belong here, Emily. And not just here at the foundation. You belong in a place where your talents and your heart can shine." There was a long pause between them, and for a moment, neither of them said anything. Emily's heart was beating faster now, and she couldn't help but feel the growing warmth between them. She had known for a while that something was there, but hearing him say those words made everything feel more real. As they stood up to leave, David looked at her with a mix of admiration and something else, something deeper. "Emily," he said softly, "I know this might be unexpected, but I'm glad you're here. Not just for the work you do, but for who you are." Emily's breath caught in her throat as their eyes locked. She could feel the pull between them, the unspoken connection that had been building for weeks. "Thank you, David," she said, her voice shaking slightly. And in that moment, as they walked out into the cool night air, Emily realized that everything was about to change again. What had started as a simple act of kindness had led her to this place, and now, the lines between professional and personal were blurring. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew that she couldn't ignore what was growing between them. Neither could David. Asterisk, asterisk. He gave her money for the bus, not knowing she was a CEO, millionaire, and fell madly in love with him. Asterisk, asterisk. Hello, everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's continue with the story. After the dinner that had felt like the beginning of something new, Emily's heart was torn. She had always been cautious about getting close to people, especially men like David. He was kind, successful, and clearly taken with her. But she couldn't shake the feeling that things were moving too quickly. Emily knew that the lines between their professional relationship and personal connection were blurring, but what troubled her most was the nagging voice in her head. Was this all just part of David's nature? Was she merely another project for him? She had spent so much of her life working to prove her worth, especially in a world where people judged her based on where she came from. The idea that she might be the recipient of David's generosity because of his position felt uncomfortable. A few days after the dinner, she found herself alone at a cafe near the foundation, nursing a cup of coffee, her mind still preoccupied. It was there that Ruth, her old friend from the diner, found her. Ruth had always been a steady presence in Emily's life, the voice of reason when Emily found herself doubting everything. "You've been quiet lately," Ruth said, sitting across from her, eyes studying Emily closely. Emily sighed and set her cup down. "I'm not sure what's going on, Ruth. I've been given so much here, and I don't know how to process it. The job, the attention, and David." Ruth raised an eyebrow, her curiosity piqued. "David? You mean the CEO?" Emily nodded, feeling the weight of the question hanging in the air. "Yeah. Ever since that dinner, it feels like he's been more than just my boss. I don't know if he sees me as more than just someone to help with his projects, or if there's something else going on. I'm afraid I'm just a part of his charity work." Ruth studied her friend for a moment, her expression softening. "You know, Emily, you've always been a little hard on yourself. Maybe it's time to trust that people, including David, see you for who you really are. You're not just a project to him. He's drawn to you, and you can't ignore that." Emily shook her head. "It's not that easy, Ruth. I'm not sure I can let myself fall for someone like him. It feels like everything is moving too fast, and I'm scared that once he sees the real me, the woman who grew up struggling and never had much, he'll lose interest." Ruth reached across the table, gently placing her hand on Emily's. "Listen to me, Emily. If he really cares for you, it's not about what you have or where you come from. It's about who you are now. Don't shut him out because of fear. Trust your heart and trust him." Emily felt a weight lift off her chest as Ruth's words settled in. She had always feared rejection, but maybe it was time to let go of that fear. She had worked hard to get here, and she was proud of what she had accomplished. David saw that in her, and perhaps she needed to accept that. Later that afternoon, David reached out to Emily, asking her to meet him at a local charity event the foundation was hosting. She was hesitant at first, but she knew this was the perfect opportunity to talk to him openly about her feelings. When they met at the event, Emily could see the excitement in David's eyes. "I'm glad you could make it," he said, his voice warm. "There's something about this night, about everything we're working toward, that feels right. But what feels even more right is having you by my side." His words struck her deeply, and for the first time, Emily felt a sense of calm. She realized that the fear she had been holding onto was all in her head. Maybe this wasn't just a project for him. Maybe, just maybe, he saw her as more than that. As they walked through the event together, David kept close to her, sharing moments of laughter, and there was an undeniable warmth between them. Emily couldn't help but wonder where this connection would lead. She had come so far from the woman she used to be, the woman standing alone at the bus stop with nothing but hope. And now, standing next to David at this event, she felt a sense of belonging like this was the beginning of something real, something that was more than just fate. Maybe, just maybe, this was the start of a new chapter. And with that thought, she let herself open up, allowing herself to imagine a future where love, trust, and ambition could coexist. She wasn't just Emily from the diner anymore. She was Emily, the woman who had a chance at something incredible. She could feel it in the air. And for the first time in a long time, she let herself believe in it. Asterisk, asterisk, he gave her money for the bus, not knowing she was a CEO millionaire and fell madly in love with him. Asterisk, asterisk. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's continue with the story. The following weeks brought a new sense of balance for Emily. Her life at the Carter Foundation continued to grow, but so did her feelings for David. Every time they worked together, she found herself drawn closer to him, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something was being kept from her. It wasn't that she thought David was hiding something malicious, no. It was more of a sense that he was holding back, that there was more to him than he had revealed. She couldn't help but wonder why someone as successful as David would be so drawn to her, a woman from a small town with no connections or family legacy to speak of. Her insecurities had a way of creeping in, clouding her judgment. And then, one afternoon, it all came to a head. David invited Emily to another event, this time a high-profile gala hosted by the foundation, and she was nervous about the idea of attending. She was still trying to find her footing in this world of wealth and influence. But she agreed, wanting to support David and his efforts. As they entered the grand ballroom, Emily was struck by the contrast between her own appearance and the luxury around her. The room was filled with wealthy business people, philanthropists, and high-ranking officials. The women wore elegant gowns, and the men were dressed in tuxedos and designer suits. David, of course, looked every bit the part in his tailored suit, but his presence in the room was more than just physical. He commanded respect with his confidence and warmth, shaking hands and engaging in conversations with ease. Emily, on the other hand, felt like an outsider. She was dressed in a beautiful gown, but it was a far cry from the lavish attire of the others. She felt out of place among the glittering lights and expensive champagne, her nerves getting the best of her. David noticed immediately. He stepped closer to her, his expression softening. "Are you all right?" he asked, his voice gentle. Emily nodded, trying to force a smile. "Yeah, just a little overwhelmed," she admitted. "It's all a bit much for me." David smiled reassuringly, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You belong here, Emily. You're a part of this, and you're doing something incredible with the foundation. Don't let all this intimidate you." His words should have comforted her, but instead, they only made her feel more out of place. She couldn't help but wonder if David had ever truly seen her for who she was, not just as a colleague or a part of his charity. Was she just another project for him? Someone to help along the way? Or was there more to their connection? As the night wore on, the event became more and more uncomfortable for Emily. She found herself growing distant from David, trying to hide her unease. She excused herself and walked outside to get some fresh air, hoping the cool breeze would calm her racing thoughts. But as she stepped outside onto the balcony, she was surprised to find David following her. "I thought you might need a break," he said softly. "I know this world can feel overwhelming sometimes. But Emily, I want you to know something." She turned to face him, her heart pounding. "What is it?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. David stepped closer, his eyes locking onto hers. "I don't just see you as part of the foundation," he said, his tone serious. "I see you as someone who has the potential to change the world, someone who inspires me. I don't want you to ever feel like you don't belong. You do." Emily's breath caught in her throat. This was the moment she had been waiting for, the moment when she could finally understand where they stood. But before she could say anything, David's phone buzzed in his pocket. He glanced at the screen and sighed. "I'm sorry, I have to take this." "It's work," he said, stepping away. Emily watched as he walked off to answer the call, feeling a knot tighten in her stomach. She had always wanted to believe that there was something real between them, something deeper than just professional admiration. But with every step he took away from her, the doubts in her mind grew stronger. Was he just too busy for her? Or had she misread everything? As David continued his conversation inside, Emily stood on the balcony, her heart heavy with uncertainty. She had come so far, and yet she still didn't know if she was truly seen for who she was, or if she was just another part of his world that he could easily leave behind. The answer was elusive, but one thing was clear. The distance between them had never felt wider. Asterisk, asterisk. He gave her money for the bus, not knowing she was a CEO, millionaire, and fell madly in love with him. Asterisk, asterisk. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's continue with the story. The following days were filled with confusion for Emily. She had hoped that her talk with David on the balcony would clear the air, but instead, she felt more uncertain than ever. He had stepped away to take that call, and when he returned, the warmth between them had dissipated, replaced by a polite distance that made her question everything. Was she just imagining the connection between them? Could it be that she had read too much into their interactions? It was a question she couldn't shake. Despite her doubts, Emily continued to work diligently at the Carter Foundation, pouring herself into the projects she was assigned. She had a natural talent for outreach, and her efforts were starting to be noticed by more than just her immediate team. The more she threw herself into her work, the more she could ignore the underlying tension with David. But the doubt still lingered, and it gnawed at her during the quiet moments. One afternoon, as Emily was leaving the office, she was caught by surprise when David approached her. He was standing in the hallway, his posture a little more rigid than usual. "Emily," he said, his voice tentative, "can we talk for a minute?" She nodded, her stomach tightening as she followed him into his office. Once inside, David closed the door behind them. "I know things have been a little tense between us lately," he started, running a hand through his hair. "I wanted to apologize if I've made you feel like you're not part of this, like you're not part of the team, or like I'm not giving you the attention you deserve." Emily blinked, caught off guard by his directness. "David, She paused, unsure how to express what had been on her mind. "It's just, I don't know. I'm not sure where we stand." David's eyes softened, and he took a step closer. "I'm sorry for making you feel that way," he said quietly. "The truth is, I've been trying to figure out what I'm doing here too. This whole situation is new for me. You mean a lot to me, more than I've allowed myself to admit." His words were like a balm to Emily's frayed nerves. She hadn't realized how much she needed to hear them until now. "I don't know how to handle this," David continued, his voice low. "I've never mixed business with personal feelings before, and I didn't want you to think I was just using you for your work, or that I was doing this out of some sense of obligation. But I like you, Emily. More than I thought I would, more than I'm ready for." Emily felt a weight lift off her shoulders. She had been holding her breath, waiting for this moment of honesty. "I like you too, David," she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. But I've been so scared. Scared of losing myself in this. Scared of being just another person in your world. David reached out, taking her hand gently in his. You're not just another person to me, he said softly. You're not a project, or someone I'm trying to fix. I see you for who you are. And that's what's made me realize how much I've been holding back. Emily's heart fluttered at his words, but the fear still lingered. I don't know what to do with this, she admitted. This feels like something I've never experienced before. David smiled, a small, reassuring smile. I know, but I think we should try to figure it out together. Slowly. No rush, no expectations. Just two people, getting to know each other without any pressures. His calm demeanor put her at ease, and for the first time in a while, Emily felt like she could breathe. The uncertainty that had clouded her heart was beginning to clear, replaced by a sense of possibility. As they stood there, holding hands in the quiet of his office, Emily realized that she didn't need to have everything figured out. Not right now. What mattered was that they were both willing to try, to take things one step at a time. With that thought, the tension that had built up between them seemed to dissolve, leaving only the hope of what could be. Emily smiled softly at David, feeling a warmth that she hadn't felt in a long time. Okay, she said, her voice steady. Let's take it slow. David squeezed her hand, his eyes filled with relief. We'll take it slow. And for the first time, Emily allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, this could be the beginning of something real, something beautiful. As they stood together in the silence, the future no longer felt so uncertain. It felt full of promise. Asterisk. He gave her money. For the bus, not knowing. She was a CEO, millionaire, and fell madly in love with him. Asterisk. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's continue with the story. Emily and David had spent the next few weeks growing closer, navigating their professional relationship with newfound openness, and exploring the subtle connection that had been building between them. They were still taking things slow, but every day felt like another layer of doubt falling away. Emily had come to realize that David's feelings for her were genuine, and that she too had begun to care for him in a way that she couldn't ignore. But even as they shared more personal moments and their professional lives continued to intertwine, Emily still carried the weight of her fears. Fear of losing herself, of being seen as just another part of his world, of being overwhelmed by the rapid changes happening around her. One afternoon, as she was working on a new project for the foundation, Emily was interrupted by a message from David. Can we talk? I have something important to share with you. She felt her heart skip a beat, and her mind immediately went into overdrive. Was this it? Was this the moment when everything would change? She quickly responded, agreeing to meet him after work. As the end of the workday approached, Emily found herself pacing in her office, wondering what David had to say. She had never felt so unsure in her life. When she finally met him outside the office building, she noticed that David looked more serious than usual. There was a certain intensity in his eyes, as if he was preparing to say something that he had been holding back for a long time. Emily, he began, his voice steady but with an edge of uncertainty. I've been thinking a lot about us, about everything that's happened between us so far, and I need to be honest with you about something important. Emily's heart raced. What is it? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. David paused for a moment, as if choosing his words carefully. The thing is, he said slowly, I'm falling for you, Emily, and I can't keep pretending that I'm not. I've tried to separate my feelings for you from my work, but it's impossible. I want to be with you, and I don't want to hide that anymore. The words hung in the air, and for a brief moment, Emily didn't know how to respond. She had always feared what it would mean if things went beyond the professional. But as she looked into David's eyes, she realized that she wasn't afraid anymore. She had been afraid of getting too close, of being vulnerable, but now she saw nothing but honesty in his gaze. David, she began, her voice trembling but steady, I'm falling for you too. I've been scared of losing myself, scared that I wouldn't be enough for you, but I want to be with you too. I don't want to keep holding back anymore." The relief that flooded David's face was immediate. He stepped closer to her, reaching out to gently take her hand in his. "You don't have to be afraid anymore, Emily. We'll figure this out together, one step at a time. No more hiding. No more pretending." Emily nodded, feeling a sense of peace settle over her. The fear that had consumed her for so long was melting away, replaced by the warmth of his words and the sincerity in his touch. Together, they could navigate the uncertainties of their relationship and their work. With a deep breath, Emily let go of the last of her hesitation. "I'm ready," she said, her voice clear and confident. "Let's do this." And with that, their future together no longer seemed so uncertain. The challenges they would face, both in their personal and professional lives, would still be there, but now they faced them as a team. As they walked down the street together, hand in hand, Emily knew that no matter what came next, she was no longer alone in her journey. With David by her side, everything seemed possible. The world was theirs to shape, and for the first time, Emily truly believed that she deserved to be part of something beautiful. She was no longer the woman who stood at the bus stop, unsure of where life would take her. She was someone who had found her place, not just in the world, but in David's life. And as the city lights shimmered around them, Emily felt a deep sense of hope for the future they would build together. He gave her money for the bus, not knowing she was a CEO, millionaire, and fell madly in love with him. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's continue with the story. Over the next few weeks, Emily and David's relationship continued to grow, and with it came the realization that they were both ready for something serious. The moments they shared were no longer just about work or obligation, but were grounded in mutual affection and trust. David had taken to inviting Emily to more events, including some exclusive charity gatherings, and each time, he made sure to introduce her as his partner. Emily felt a sense of pride when she was with him, knowing that he valued her not only for her work at the foundation but for who she was as a person. Yet, as their relationship deepened, Emily couldn't help but feel the looming weight of the life she had left behind. She had grown up with very little and had fought hard to make a name for herself. But now, standing beside David in a world of luxury and high society, she began to wonder if she truly belonged there. At times, she found herself questioning whether her success was based on her own merit or if it was merely because of the connections she had made through David. One evening, after an especially lavish charity gala, Emily found herself standing alone on the balcony, looking out over the city skyline. She was lost in her thoughts when she felt a familiar presence behind her. David stepped up beside her, his gaze following hers to the horizon. "Beautiful night," he remarked softly, his voice a comforting presence. Emily nodded, but she couldn't shake the feeling of being disconnected from the world they were part of. "Yeah, it is," she said quietly, then turned to face him. "David, do you ever think about how different our lives are? You've lived this life of luxury and influence, and then there's me, someone who spent most of her life just trying to get by." David looked at her with a mixture of concern and affection. "Emily, we may have come from different worlds, but that's what makes what we have so special. You've got a heart and a strength that I've never seen in anyone else. That's what I see when I look at you." His words were sincere, but Emily still couldn't help but feel like she was standing in a place she didn't belong. "I don't know, David," she confessed, her voice trembling slightly. "I love being with you, but sometimes I feel like I'm just living in a world I'm not a part of. I don't know if I can ever feel like I truly belong here." David stepped closer to her, his hand gently taking hers. "You do belong, Emily, not because of what you have or where you come from, but because of who you are. You've got a fire inside of you, and that's what makes you more than enough." Emily felt a lump form in her throat. She had spent so much of her life feeling like she had to prove herself, but in that moment, standing beside David, she realized that she didn't need to prove anything. She had already come so far. "I don't want to lose myself in all of this," Emily whispered. "I just don't want to feel like I'm not enough for you, or for this world. David gently lifted her chin, making her meet his gaze. Emily, you are more than enough. You are everything I've ever needed. His words washed over her like a wave of reassurance, and for the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to believe it. As they stood there together, with the city lights twinkling in the distance, Emily realized that her insecurities didn't define her. She wasn't just the girl who had struggled to get by. She was a woman who had found her place, not only in David's life but in a world that was waiting for her to step up and claim it. The future was no longer something to fear. It was something to embrace. Emily knew that there would still be challenges ahead, but with David by her side, she felt like she could face anything. She leaned into him, feeling the warmth of his embrace, and for the first time in what felt like forever, she allowed herself to relax. Whatever came next, they would face it together, with all the love and strength they had built. And in that moment, Emily knew that she had finally found her place, not just in David's world, but in her own. He gave her money for the bus, not knowing she was a CEO millionaire and fell madly in love with him. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's continue with the story. As the weeks went by, Emily and David found themselves not just building a strong professional relationship, but also a love that was growing deeper with each passing day. Their bond, once clouded by doubts and insecurities, had blossomed into something real, something they both treasured. Emily no longer feared that she didn't belong in David's world. Instead, she found herself thriving in it, not just as his partner, but as someone who had her own space, her own voice, and her own place in this new life she had built. The foundation had flourished under her efforts, and her confidence grew in tandem with the success of the charity work. But it wasn't just the projects and the accolades that made Emily the happiest. It was the quiet moments with David. Whether it was sharing a cup of coffee in the mornings or talking about their dreams late into the night, she found peace in his presence. David had never been more certain about what he wanted. He had found someone who matched his ambition, someone who was more than just a part of his world, someone who had her own strength, her own dreams. Emily was no longer a woman who was just trying to prove herself. She was his equal, his partner, and someone he cherished more than anything. One evening, after a quiet dinner, David surprised Emily with a gesture that spoke louder than words. He had arranged for a private dinner at a quiet, intimate restaurant, the kind of place where time seemed to stand still. It wasn't about grand gestures or public displays of affection, it was about the two of them, finding solace in each other's company. As they sat across from each other, David reached across the table, taking Emily's hand in his. His eyes met hers, and for a moment, everything else faded away. "Emily," he said softly, "I've been thinking a lot about us, about everything we've been through, and I can't imagine my life without you in it. You're the person I've always been looking for, even when I didn't know it, and I want to spend the rest of my life with you." Emily felt her heart swell as she heard his words. She had known for some time now that she loved him, but hearing him say it made her feel a warmth she couldn't describe. "I love you too, David," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "You've shown me a world I never thought I could be a part of, and you've made me believe in myself. I want to be with you, now and always." David smiled, his expression full of love and tenderness. "Then let's make it official," he said, reaching into his pocket and pulling out a small, elegant box. He opened it to reveal a beautiful engagement ring, one that sparkled with the promise of their future together. Emily gasped, her hand flying to her mouth in surprise. "David, is this—" she began, her voice trembling. David nodded, his gaze never leaving hers. "I want to marry you, Emily. I want to build a life with you, through all the ups and downs. Will you marry me?" Tears welled in Emily's eyes as she looked at the ring, then back at David. Everything they had been through, all the doubts, all the fears they had led them to this moment. And in that moment, she knew that her heart had found its home. "Yes," she said, her voice steady but full of emotion. "Yes, I will marry you." David slid the ring onto her finger, and they shared a kiss, sealing their promise to each other. The future was no longer uncertain. Together, they had built something real, something beautiful. And as they stood hand in hand, ready to face whatever life would throw their way, Emily knew that she had finally found her place in the world by David's side, in a life they would create together. The story that had started with a simple act of kindness had become so much more. It had become the foundation of a love that would last a lifetime. In this captivating love story, we dive deep into the world of billionaire romance with a twist. When a young woman helps a man with his bus fare, little does she know that this simple act of kindness will lead her into the life of a wealthy CEO. As their connection grows, they face the challenges of navigating their contrasting worlds and dealing with insecurities, proving that true love knows no boundaries. This story is a prime example of how millionaire stories often blur the lines between love, ambition, and personal growth. As their relationship deepens, the woman discovers her own worth, overcoming her fears of being seen as just another part of his world. The tale is filled with emotional moments, unexpected twists, and the undeniable chemistry between the two. The journey from strangers to soulmates is a testament to how the most unexpected millionaire stories can lead to a lifetime of happiness. With every challenge, they prove that love, trust, and commitment are the true currencies of a meaningful relationship. If you're looking for a story that combines romance and the allure of millionaire stories, this one is for you. The connection between these two characters reminds us that sometimes the richest love stories are the ones we least expect.